see your face in every sunrise. So many ways I dream of those eyes, and you are my skies. You are beautiful when you cry.
You know, one of the benefits of this time is that you can have wonderful theological reflection and discussion. I've been having wonderful discussions with my kids and, letting them ask daddy questions and things of this, and asking them questions, just pulling things out. I didn't know that, but apparently the Kennedys, it was I guess a Kennedy family tradition. And they got their problems, of course. They got a lot of problems. But anyways, he was saying that that the parents would make the children debate one another. So they have a topic. Should we go to war in Vietnam? Should we? They have throw a topic out and have the kids debate. Peaceably, and not get emotional about it, and just give their opinions, give their point of view. And there's really just two points of view: leftism and right, and left and right. Right. Basically, that's the point of view. Pretty. When you look at the spectrum of politics, there's spectrums in between, but it's pretty much two main views, right? And they used to encourage that kind of debate between, have the kids articulate positions. Now they're very liberal and stuff like that, so they didn't edify the children in that way. But anyways, the point is, in this environment, in this time, also as a time for, reflecting on not only what Father taught us, not only what Father warned us, and he prophesied, and he exhorted, and he, for purpose of education, exhortation, comfort, but also in who Father is. It's a great time to reflect on who Father is, the coming Lord, who he is. So we're having dinner, and then all of a sudden, Daddy throws out, I said, okay, all right, kids, what do you think about the 6 Marys? Out of the blue. Because that's supposed to be a taboo topic, right? Which is not. But it's supposed to be. People think that it's a taboo topic. So I throw this out, and all the kids are like, huh? You never know what happens around the king's table, okay? Okay. Right? And I said, okay, what do you all think about 6 Marys? Because if you look up on the internet, or if you look up, most of our Japanese kids, especially in Japan, filtered by the NHK. But if you look at the things that come through Japan, the first thing you see, if you type in Father Reverend Sun Myung Moon, is an issue about the quote 6 Marys. That's not the case in America, right? But in Japan, they have the Google search or whatever they have down there funneled so that the first thing you see is Reverend Moon and 6 Marys. But this is something that all the parents should have discussed with their children. And you should not have made it a taboo subject if you did. Should have been at the table and say, hey, everybody, what do you think about the 6 Marys? So then, we started discussing, talking about it. And it's interesting because when you ask that question, all the kids, of course, they want to know. They want to know what went on in that situation. Remember, Father never hid anything about the covenant that he made with any of the brides that he married, right? But the church ended up, let's put it this way, the leaders, they, number one, started forgetting principle. They started forgetting lineage. And so they tried to make this culture of don't talk about this. But you know what that does? It creates more confusion. So what I explained to my kids, okay. So we had a discussion, and I'm kind of okay, all right. And then so they didn't really know. They want to see what Daddy has to say about it. I said, first of all, first of all, we have to understand that the sixth marriage was a term that Father never used. The sixth marriage is a term that our detractors used. So this got famous on one of the detractors that came out of the church. Quote, wrote a book about Father. Later on, retracted his book because he admitted that he lied in the book. So later on, he retracted his own book. But it's a term that our detractors used. That kids don't even know that. They don't know about it. All they've done is just heard these mysteries or rumors, or they've heard bad rumors on the internet. Reverend Moon is an adulterer. Reverend Moon is this or that, right? So then they're thinking, oh, since we can't talk about it, I guess there's something bad there. Now they all see how they're all listening now? All these young. It's actually because young people, they want to know their identity. They're hit and hurt. They're hit by the barrage of people that says, "Oh, Reverend Moon's not the Messiah." This or that, right? So number one, we have to understand, sixth marriage is not even a term that Father used or even the church used in general. It was a term that our enemies were using against us, and it became popularized in the historical context. Okay. Number two, and it's almost like this. Of course. This is probably a good discussion, an important discussion we have to have with children and young people when we do like the second coming lectures. And number two, for example, point number two is we have to understand what Cook Jung talks about many times as a compression of history. And what I did, just to make it easier for the kids to understand, is I drew a picture of them on the table. Okay. So here, at the beginning of time, you have, let's say there's a pyramid like this, or a triangle like this. They were sitting here. Daddy's sitting here. So there's a triangle. In the beginning, there's Adam and Eve. They're at the top of that triangle, right? Now they have a lot of babies, a lot of children, 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 a lot of children here. Now you have a big base, right? So now you have a start point, which was 2 people, and now you have what? 7.8 billion, whatever. So you start from this little apex, and now you have a lot of people. When the Lord returns, he has to deal with this bottom piece of the triangle, not the top. He's got to deal with this big triangle on the bottom. And everybody's got to unite with him. All the women have to come to him as the bride. All the men have to come to him as a son. Everybody's got to unite with him. So he's not dealing with the apex of that triangle. He's dealing with the base, which is very large. Now, what we call the compression of history, he has to now compress all that big base back to this point. So you can kind of understand it in a diagram. Probably better to even draw it up, I think everybody can visualize what I'm drawing here, right? The Lord comes back here, not up here. So you come back here, he has to deal with this entire base. Now, he comes back, but you have to understand his purpose. The problem with the problem with a lot of the young people is they have no understanding of divine principle whatsoever. They don't understand principle. Their parents never taught them. They, of course, never read it. The parents, of course, are the key figures that have had to taught them principle. They are the key teacher, but a lot of parents did not do anything in terms of teaching. So even the purpose of creation, they don't know what the purpose of creation is. They have no idea. Young people have no idea. So even when you look at the secular study of religion, and particularly phenomenology, which you study in the study of religions, you are supposed to separate yourself from the actual time period. Or if you're looking at a particular ritual, separate yourself from a particular ritual and the given historical context that you're in. So if you're a Westerner coming from America or Latin America or Asia, whatever, you have to understand your own historical biases, whatever the case may be. And you have to look at a particular ritual or a particular liturgy or a particular religion and look at the phenomenon in that religion at face value, not with your own cultural bias, right? That's one of the sort of standards in the basic study of phenomenology, right? Which, of course, young people don't understand. But they don't understand, for example, the purpose of creation. So now they understand. If they understand this little pyramid, The Lord returns here. There's a big base of the triangle now. A lot of people he has to deal with. But why is he coming back? What is the purpose for which the Lord's second advent comes back? Now, if you understand divine principle, obviously you know. It's very clear, right? What is it for? It's for lineage. It's the lineage. The lineage is the key. The lineage is the bloodline, the blood lineage, the 혈통. And of course, from the lineage will come God's kingship line, which of course from that will come his kingdom. So when you understand that at the base of this triangle now, the Father returns, now he has to deal with the base of this triangle. Why is that important? Well, it helps you understand Father's covenant that he made with Che Mother Che, the first wife who beat him and ran away, remember? Every time Father got blessed to these women, he made a covenant. Their role was, of course, they're not Lord. They're not going to be a goddess. Okay? They have a particular role as a bride of Christ. They have to establish the 12 tribes of Israel. Doesn't mean the 12 tribes will be perfect, but it means from the 12 tribes, Father will choose the kingship line, and from there will come the kingdom. So remember in the 80s, and remember Father always preaching about how critical it was for the 12 tribes to be re-indemnified, recreated, all the time. I remember as just a young boy listening at Belvedere, Father always talking about the 12 tribes, always. So these women knew that Father had to, and by the way, they agreed. They said yes to the covenant, right? Of their own free will. Of course, they had great privilege and great opportunity to be the Lord's head bride. But they had a responsibility. They had to establish, they had to have 12 children to establish the 12 tribes of Israel. Now, first wife, Mrs. Che, obviously, she could not live up to that responsibility. She broke down, etc. Everybody knows the story. She got to the point where she was beating Father with shoes and stuff like that. And of course, she divorced him. Now, what people don't realize, is that when Father married Hanakja, she was fully aware of the covenant that she must keep. She must vow to have 12 children for true Father, to reestablish the 12 tribes of Israel. Everybody understands this, right? All you first gen, especially, you know. The Messiah's purpose is not to impress society. The Messiah's purpose is not to be a popular person. The Messiah's purpose is to establish God's lineage, which will bring the kingdom, which will actually probably be very unpopular towards the totalitarians, which lead popular culture, until it creates the tremendous results that it will, right? But by that time, it'd be hard to immigrate in. Okay. Okay, so the Han mother made the covenant. She signed in blood, so to speak. She made the covenant. She vowed, yes, Father, I will have the 12 tribes. Because ideally, it should be through one woman. But again, the first woman fails. Right? And Han mother takes on the covenant. She says she vows she's going to do it. What happens? There's a 5-year period between Kukjinim and Kwanjo. 5 years. This is when Sammy and those kind of bozos, these guys are trying to attack me all the time. They're trying to always threaten the church. They get money, right? These guys, right? That's the period where Sammy and these kids are born. Or that, Sammy is born. Now, what the world sees and what everybody sees, Father couldn't control his pee-pee. And Father is just sleeping around. This is what the world sees. Okay? What happened during that 5-year period? After Kukjin was born, the disobedience of the Han mother began. Because that's when she was saying, I can't have any more children. I'm going to die. I'm going to this and that, whatever, right? Even though at the beginning she understood the covenant, even the sake of her death, that she vows to have 12 children. So during that time, the 5-year period where, you understand, every year she was having children, moving closer towards her vow and her promise to a true father, right? That she will rebirth the 12 tribes of Israel. And then it stops. Now they say it's miscarriages, they say this, that. That's when her disobedience begins. She keeps saying, I can't have baby, I can't have a baby. She think about her own life more. This is going to kill me. You understand what's happening? So, why is this important to understand this point in history? Because in theology, if you study theology, if you understand biblical history, there's periods in God's providence where there's called a teleological suspension of the ethical. Okay, now that's a complicated word, but teleology is from the Greek word telos, which means goal. And then so what it means is that there are times, just like we do, for example, in modern jurisprudence, where you suspend the normal ethical code for a greater purpose. So one of my children asked, well, why would have the ethical code then in the beginning anyways? Well, you see this in normal modern jurisprudence. In the United States of America, for example, you have certain ethical codes by which you have to behave, or otherwise you'll be put in prison. But if that person is designated, or if that group is designated terrorist or combatants, you now suspend those ethical codes. You understand? For the greater telos of destroying that foreign enemy, or even domestic too. It could be domestic, right? But usually it's foreign. You understand? So even in modern jurisprudence, you have this reality. The laws that you exist under in the United States. You understand in biblical history, for example, in the examples of Tamar, Bathsheba, etc. Father said that he had to walk the path of 10,000 crosses because, and that if you understand Tamar, you'll understand what Father had to go through. Now remember what Tamar did. Tamar is a Jewish woman. She's a Jewish woman. She sleeps with her father-in-law. Do you understand what that would do in Jewish culture? You will be killed. You will die. If you sleep with your father-in-law, you will die. Now, why does the Bible have Tamar as a major figure, a woman, a lead woman? Okay, now, most Christian apologists cannot explain. They don't know why. If you look at Bibles with actual explanations and commentaries, on the issue of Tamar, they have no commentary. It's like a confusion for them. But we understand Tamar, there was the bloodline of Jesus was going to be killed, eradicated, if she did not bear children of the lineage of her father-in-law. And we know that because from that line comes Jesus. Jesus is born from that line. But there's an existential crisis in which there has to be a teleological suspension of the ethical. God commands her, you sleep with him, you have to continue the line. Even though that would have been her death. You understand, folks? Mother Mary, for example, also gets pregnant, unwed, you will be killed. She had to do it. She had to walk that course. She had to become pregnant with child. From her comes directly Jesus, but I'm saying even in the previous generations, Tamar is one of the 4 mothers of Jesus. Bathsheba, who became David's adulterous bride. Guess what? From her line comes Jesus. You understand? That's not God saying adultery is fine. That's God understanding that at certain points, my civilization and my kingship will be wiped out. And at that point, it needs to continue. Otherwise, the purpose of creation, which is for the lineage, and then, of course, the kingship line, will not be established on earth. So during that 5-year period between Kukjeong and Kwonjeong, and a Han mother breaking her covenant, breaking her vows, saying that she cannot and will not have any more children, effectively, obviously I wasn't and in the room at the time. But effectively, she's breaking the covenant with God, right? And of course, further, we can see the greatness of her disobedience and her traitorous behavior after Father passes in trying to even destroy his three kingship and try to expunge it, and try to say that it never existed, that he never established it. But this is why young people, they have no brains. They don't have a high level of thinking. They're very low level thinking. Very easy to be manipulated by simple riposts. By friends saying, "Oh, you believe in that Reverend Moon? He's an adulterer. Oh, you can have just something like that." Just throws them off kilter. The problem is, of course, a lot of the parents are so low level too that we cannot even explain to our kids. There's a problem. How do you expect to be able to defend Father and to defend our identity and our kingdom? Which, of course, thank God, is not a totalitarian kingdom. It is a kingdom of freedom and responsibility. It's a kingdom where you can be very prosperous and very successful if you serve others and you live for others. It is a truly good kingdom by any litmus test of the imagination. It is a great fruit. Not grapefruit, a great fruit. And from the tree you know fruit. Why, if Father was not the Lord, will such a kingdom arise? It's not possible. He would continue the pattern, just like the Han mother, of the fake totalitarians. His bloodline would continue the pattern of all of his human history, because he would be a fallen Messiah and his children should bear fallen fruit, which means that we should be promoting totalitarianism like the Han mother. There's a problem. Young people do not understand our theology. They don't understand who they are. And that's why they're so easily sucked up into stupid, low-level ideologies. Isn't it funny that the Han mother, it's funny how almost that feminist doctrine comes in. It's okay if the Han mother, it's okay as the object partner if she breaks her covenant with God. That's okay, that's fine. Well, guess what happens in the Old Testament? Whenever God is dealing with people and they break their covenant and leave him, guess what? His hedge of protection is removed. Judgment comes. And bad things happen. Does that mean God is not just? He's not perfectly all good? Does that mean because he allows judgment to come upon his people and also the enemies of his people, that he is not an all good God? No, of course not. The problem with the majority of these arguments is that they appeal to the emotion. And they're so unbelievably low level. They're clearly done by people who are simply trying to pull young people away from the truth of Scripture. If you understand Scripture, you understand that God has, at certain points in time, when his lineage is threatened, and his kingdom is threatened, he suspends the normal mode of ethics. Just like, by the way, the U.S. government and the U.S. jurisprudence does the same. Just how our nation does, by the way. Because when something is of such massive existential crisis and is basically issuing wartime emergency powers, then the normal MO, modus operandi, does not apply in that situation. Now, when the Han mother threatened to stop the bloodline and to kill the bloodline, is what she did. Now you understand why Father said, no, we're not going to kill the bloodline. You have to obey and fulfill the vow. And when she continued to disobey, then Father will move on. Like he said in public millions of times. If mother does not birth the 12. Remember that period? If you all were in New York at that period, now things are going to start clicking in your brain. Now you're going to start, that period between Kukchinim and Kwanjo. Why was Father talking so much about if she doesn't have the 12, she's going to be changed? Now things will start clicking in your brain. So you see, she not only tried to kill the bloodline then, but after Father had been victorious with the 12, tribes. And by the way, if Father was such a pervert and he couldn't control his penis, then why the hell did he stop having wives? Why did he stop? You have normal bozos that are 80 years old, 70 years old. If they have money and they have power, they can't stop banging chicks. Why did Father stop when after 12 children? Why? No, because the mission is done. Why was there no issue after that? You understand? Clearly, it was not because he has some, weakness, like the stupid Balcomcy, the idiot. Because these people don't understand principle. They don't understand Father's purpose is to establish God's lineage. And he has to have the 12 tribes to re-indemnify the 12 tribes of Israel, the connected tribes, the children of God, the 12 disciples. That providential condition has to be established. And by the way, the woman knew it in advance, and she knew it at the covenant vow. See, everybody always forgets that piece, right? Evil feminist culture always taking the side of women, even though the women was the one trying to destroy and kill the lineage. So unfortunately, yes, just like Jesus experienced, when God comes to the earth, he has to deal with, lack of a better word, broken and effed up people. He's got to deal with people who get greedy and get materialistic. But see, this is why it's important to be able to talk about these things. Why do you hide it from your children? You're ashamed. You're the one committing sin. Because you're forgetting principle. The purpose to establish a lineage, establish 12 tribes from which the kingship line will emerge and Father will choose. And from which the coming kingdom will come, because the Constitution will be revealed by his heir and successor, as he predicted in 83? Isn't that interesting? Because that was after all the kids from the Han mother had been born. I was born in 79. Yun is 81 and Chung is 82, I believe. Isn't that interesting timing? See, it's the common way of Satan to try to tear down Jesus, tear down Father, by using the standards of popular culture. Which is, of course, be licentious, have free sex. They're trying to stop you from doing it. Come on, you hate them anyway. Our young people have a tremendous lack in understanding of the Bible. Probably never heard of Tamar. Probably never heard of Bathsheba. Probably never heard of Mother Mary. Maybe they heard of Mother Mary, because Catholic friends. The worship of Mary, the Catholic friends, right? And they have no understanding of principle. They don't know what the purpose of creation is. They just love it if the Messiah came and everybody just loved him. That's not going to happen, and the Bible never prophesied that will happen. In fact, their wars will be waged against him. But they're so illiterate and so uneducated about Scripture, they have no understanding of expectations. They have no means of managing expectations because they have fake expectations, wrong expectations, false expectations. And that's why they get sucked up into pathetic, shallow things. Self-service, serving themselves, lust, pleasure. They become hedonists. Because in the end, they want it to become anyways. But it's only being accountable to God that stops them from becoming animals and warns other people and gives them consequences for being such. I mean, how do you explain? How the hell do you explain Tamar sleeping with her freaking father-in-law? She dressed up a prostitute. While he's drunk, she goes in his bed and bangs her father-in-law. How in the hell? And God told her to do that. How do you explain that? If you don't understand the purpose of creation. If you don't understand the path of the cross. How do you understand that? How can you understand that? I haven't seen one good Christian commentary on it. They can't understand it. How can you explain that from Jewish law? And then how can you explain that Jesus came from that line? Clearly breaking the law of God. How can God bless that line? And then the Messiah comes from that line? How is that possible? Father said very clearly, you will never understand my course until you understand Tamar. Because that's clearly a point in time. Now look, God does not suspend ethics, the ethical, number one, for everybody, because not everybody is a central figure. God selects central figures to move the dispensation forward. So the idiots that try to say, oh, well, my father did that. Well, I want to have multiple, wives. It's like, no. Why am I totally loyal and devoted to the queen? Because Father already established the 12 tribes. He walked the path of Tamar's cross. He walked the path of being betrayed constantly by the women who made the vow and covenant, but tried to extinct the line and kill the bloodline. You see how wicked they are, wicked women. Originally, it should be Adam and Eve. But then you have the big triangle. And now the Lord comes back here. He's only one man. Everybody's got to unite with him. Everybody's got to be restored through him. He's the central figure, the central person. He's the Lord. Through him, we'll be engrafted on the olive tree. New life, new love, new lineage. Bloodline will change. When Jesus' bloodline almost got extinct, God told Tamar, you have to dress up as a prostitute and go sleep with your father-in-law. Because that's the end of their civilization. Just like when the U.S. has Al-Qaeda trying to extinct it, it will say, okay, we're going to spend the normal ethics of dealing with that part of the country, and they're delineated as combatants, and we will bomb them and destroy them. You see how we're no longer treating them as civilian peoples of a different country, right? Do you see how that changes even in normal jurisprudence? Depending on the exigency. And this is what young people don't understand. A civilization can be killed by destroying its bloodline. Because in the end, we're not here just to be another group of peoples on the planet. Right? God's people, as the scripture says, is separated from the world. They are people endowed with a future promise and a future rulership and a future kingdom that they will have real power over. Are you with me, folks? Yes. So you understand how critical that is. If you kill the bloodline, then you kill the potential for that real political power to emerge. That's what they did accomplish. At Jesus' time, they were able to end the bloodline. As it says in John, if my kingdom was of this world, my followers would fight. They would fight you, is what he said to Pontius Pilate. We would be a serious political threat for you, and we will destroy your kingdom. It's a massive promise. It's a massive danger for powers to be. So if Satan is able to stop true father's bloodline, then what you see in the Constitution that has been released, you would never see. And then the actual coming nations that would join that kingdom, you would never see. You would never see it. They only emerge because Father had to continue the bloodline and fulfill the 12 tribes. So we have to understand the purpose of the King of Kings, not come back to be popular, not come back to, he's going to be reviled and hated. You look at Revelation, just look at the book of Revelation, there are wars that are waged against him. The armies come up to fight him of the world. So then one of my children, because I created an environment where they could ask their daddy questions and not be judged as evil children, right? Like a lot of these, I don't know, some parents, right? For children sincerely asking a serious question that is serious to them, and because you can't answer it, or because you're not prepared to answer it, you make them feel completely evil for asking that question. You've now killed their trust in you. How will you be their pastor? How will you be their minister? The Bible calls you to be kings and priests to them. How will you be their priest? Can you imagine, even in the fallen Catholic Church, if somebody comes to the priest to ask them for guidance, that they would make them feel guilty for asking the question? I mean, it's brainless, brain dead. Drives me nuts. Right? So What's the best evidence that true Father is the Lord of second heaven? Well, we have the divine principle. We have the divine principle. We have the parallels of history, which will be given in the lecture very soon. Right? We have the reason. And then, of course, we can go approach it not only through divine principle, but we can also approach it from biblically. We can approach it from the prophecy, the books of prophecy in Scripture. Chapters in Daniel, chapters in Hosea, chapters in Isaiah, chapters in, of course, Revelation. Chapters in the Gospels where Jesus talks about his second coming in the days of Noah, etc. The 10 virgins and the 5 and the 10 lampstands. All these things we can approach from. But the problem is, many times, the parents are not prepared to guide your children. They asked you, you didn't know the answers, you got mad. Because you did that, you killed their faith. That's a problem. So we can't go that way. None of our brothers and sisters were brought to true Father by somebody saying to them, "You're bad, that was a bad question, you're bad." None of you were witnessed that way. Yet that's how you tried to witness your children. Not all of you, but some people watching maybe. I'm not going to just say in Asia that's a problem, because I know that's a lie. I know that's a problem everywhere. The reality is the parents were not. They didn't take seriously the job of priest. And your children will suffer because of that, 100%. 100%. Because you're the people they trust. You're the priesthood they trust. At least they did when they were young, like real young. If you've lost that trust, it's not because of the church, it's not because of anything. It's probably because of what you've done. Right? That's the reality. Your priesthood in your family was weak. And this is not a condemnation or anything. This is an exhortation. It's very important to reflect on these things. Very important. And I know we're very reflective people. It's very important to reflect on these things. Besides, everybody got tons of time in this quarantine situation anyways. Let's go to Revelation chapter 3, verse 12. These are some of the scriptures that we were talking with Pastor Cook the other week with Joan. But we've covered it millions of times. Let's cover it again. We can start in, we can start in verse 11. "Behold, I come quickly, hold that fast which thou hast, let no man take thy crown. Him that overcometh will I make a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go no more out. And I will write upon him the name of my God, and the name of the city of my God, which is the New Jerusalem, which cometh down out of heaven from my God. And I will write upon him my new name." Jesus says very clear he has a new name. How many times we covered this in the last 2 years? Many times, right? Jesus says he has a new name. 2:17. Let's look at 2:17. "He that hath ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. To him that overcometh will I give you eat and hidden manna, and will give him a white stone, and the stone a new name written, and in the stone a new name written, which no man knoweth, saving he that receiveth it." So you have to receive the new name. Now let's jump to Revelation chapter 7. We start in verse 1. "And after these things I saw 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of God, the living God. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels, to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the seas." Okay? So you see that right there. An angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God. The living God seal comes from the what? East. All right, let's jump to Revelation chapter 12. Let's read together. "And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon at her feet, and upon her head a garland of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his head. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as he was born. And she was brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,000 to 103 days. Okay, so we see that's 9:23. 9:23:17. Remember the wonders in heaven? Remember the whole Christian prophetic circle talking about the wonders in heaven is coming up, the lineup of the stars? Yes. Remember that? And I showed you actually pictures of it, the NASA predictions about all the stars lineup. Get that picture, boys. Find that picture, 9:23:17. And on that there was 12 stars with, and there appeared a great wonder in heaven. For those who had eyes to see, everybody in Christian prophecy, the entire Christian world was looking at this day. Many were prophesying that Jesus would return on that day. Remember this? That's right. But it went uneventful, nothing. Right? In terms of what they think, nothing happened. Something big happened. You find that picture, boys, if you can find it. There it is. Okay, so you have Virgo, and then 9.5 months, Jupiter, planet with the king planet, was in her stomach. And then it comes out, the day it comes out, because it has retrograde motion, it stayed within her womb, remember this, for 9.5 months. And then it comes out, the day it comes out, the sun is clothing her, the sun is at her shoulder, and the moon is at her feet. And then she has a 12-garland star because the constellation Leo has 9, but Mercury, Mars, Venus is in there making 12. On that day, on the day, that what? True parents, cosmic, perfection level blessing. Perfection of the Father, of course, the perfection of the mother through the Father. A true mother, a true woman is born. And think about it, that's literally the day, because that was the day that they're blessed at the perfection level, that I became her son. I was born as a new son. And guess what? Right after the 9:23:17 is when God gave me the revelation of the rod of iron. Right after that. And remember, just a few months later is when we had the event that shocked the world. Remember this? That was 9:23:17. Now let's go to Revelation chapter 14. The Lamb of the 144,000. And I looked, and lo, a Lamb stood on the Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his Father's name written in their foreheads. Remember this. Isn't it interesting, from one of the 12 tribes, that true Father, birth, which he said absolutely has to be done, and from his kingship line, then comes the birth of what? The many kingship lines, and the crowns, and what? No, the Father's name in the forehead. Okay, let's keep going on. And I heard a voice from heaven as the voice of many waters and as the voice of great thunder. And I heard the voice of harpers harping with their harps. And they sung as it were a new song before the throne and before the 4 beasts and the elders. And no man could learn the song but the 144,000, which were redeemed from the earth. These are they which were not defiled with women, for they are virgins. These are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. These were redeemed from among them, being the firstfruits unto God and to the Lamb. Remember the remnant, the falling away? All those who have been corrupted to fall to Satan. But the firstfruits, the people who stayed with Father's bloodline, becoming the firstfruits of God, being as pure as virgins, right? And in their mouth was found no guile, for they are without fault before the throne of God. And I saw another angel fly in the midst. Okay, no, just jump back to verse 3. Look. And they sung as it were a new song before the throne and before the elders, before the 4 beasts and the elders. And no man could learn that song but the 144,000. So they sang it in front of the elders. But look at that. The elders in the biblical tradition is what? Languages. Hebrew and Greek, Aramaic. Those are the ancient texts, all the New Testaments. Those are the biblical languages. So there's a new Messiah come from the east, seal of God from the east, has a new name. The name is given for those who receive it, written on their foreheads. There's crowns. There's a rod of iron king that's born in a mother that the sun and moon is covering, right? She's given shelter. And she's given place in the wilderness. And then what? They sing a new song that the elders cannot understand. Which means what? It's a non-biblical language. The song of the anthem is a non-biblical language, something that the biblical scholars do not understand. Still, when you hear it, you hear the song and it's translated into English, you can feel its power. But if we sang in Korean, nobody would understand it. Name one self-proclaimed Messiah that fulfills all those things and whose kingdom that's coming is not a totalitarian country. Name one. One. There's no other. No other that fits that description from biblical prophecy. And whose future kingdom will not be a political Satanist totalitarian country. Right? Because that would change the nature of God. Because the book of Hebrews says he is the same. What? Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And to Christ be glory forever. Are you with me, folks? This is an important study. That's why I follow doing prophecy all the time. Prophecy is for edification. It's for exhortation. It's for comfort. And this time of lockdown seriousness, people have to consider life and death. And I'm not only talking about virus life and death, I'm talking about economic life and death, because if this collapses, we're in deep trouble. Big trouble. Serious trouble. It's critical to know, to remember in this time who we are. And if we understand who we are, we will not fear death. Because even the worst the devil can do is kill us. But that doesn't end. We go on to be in the arms of the Lord. And that's why the person in Christ has so much power that is supernatural. It's so much power. And that's why these communists hate people connecting with Christ.